They trying to time me, trying to put me back up in the can like I'm a lime bean. Middle of the city where
I just pray that he's out there somewhere. We need him.
He was trying so hard to promote his rap. And do you know how guilty I feel that my son picked up these two other young men?
before I turn to rat, I be in Supermax crying.
I'll never see that beautiful smile.
Crying. They'll never tell you that, oh funny nigga, what I miss. Never tell you that.
A young woman wondering where her missing fiance is. A mother fearing the worst, that she's never going to see her son again. And an entire country trying to answer the question, what happened to the three rappers who went missing in Detroit? We've got to turn on the searchlight for Armani Kelly, Montoya Gibbons, and Dante Wicker. Welcome back to Brain Scratch Searchlight. I'm John Lordan. Thank you so much for joining me here today as we look into what the headlines are dubbing the three missing rappers. Now, according to information that just came out from the New York Times, we're not sure that all three of them were actually performing at this gig that was canceled. We do know that Armani Kelly certainly was. We'll get through all the details and try to clear up as much as we can. But I want to start by talking about something that many of us in life have experienced, and it can be something really, really special. And that is a second chance, a chance to start anew. The people that we're talking about today, I believe all of them have prison records. These are guys that have served their time. This group of three men actually met each other while they were incarcerated. Now, by all accounts, from what I'm hearing about Armani, who really has the lead in terms of the news coverage, honestly, I'm not finding a ton of detail at all about Montoya or Dante. Armani was really putting some pieces into play for carrying himself into a new future, new career path, but also while chasing his dreams. And that, of course, leads us to this trip that he takes to Detroit for a performance, his rap performance. Let's go ahead and jump into the articles and see what we can learn about this case, starting with where it takes place. Detroit is the largest city in the U.S. state of Michigan. It's also the largest U.S. city on the United States-Canada border and the seat of government of Wayne County. The metropolitan area known as Metro Detroit is home to 4.3 million people, making it the second largest in the Midwest after the Chicago metropolitan area. Regarded as a major cultural center, Detroit is known for its contributions to music, art, architecture, and design, and of course, its historical automotive background. Time named Detroit as one of the 50 world's greatest places of 2022 to explore. Armani Kelly has dreams of pursuing music, and he lives quite a bit outside of Detroit. So he was probably really excited to land a gig in the big city in his state. Let's go ahead and continue at Newsbreak with information. 27-year-old Armani Kelly is an aspiring rap artist who goes by the name Marley Whoop. Armani lives in Standish, Michigan, but on Saturday, January 21st, 2023, he traveled over 100 miles from his home to Detroit for a performance. As he arrived in Detroit that evening, he called his mother, Lori Kemp, to let her know that he made it into the city. Armani was last seen on Saturday, January 21st, 2023 at Lounge 31. Now, that information is actually kind of unconfirmed. That's where he was supposed to be performing, but as we get into the details, we're going to learn that on the drive, he basically got word that the performance was canceled, and it's still kind of a big question in terms of did him, and it seems like he went and picked up his two friends, did they actually even make it to Lounge 31? Lounge 31 is located on Gratiot Avenue in Detroit. He was scheduled to perform for a birthday party at the club, but the party was reportedly canceled after his arrival. Armani decided to perform an open mic at an unknown location nearby, and he's never been seen or heard from again. He's 5'7" and weighs around 200 pounds. brown hair and brown eyes. There is actually already a NamUs profile for him. They have him listed between 5'11" to 6 feet tall and weighing 198 to 230 pounds. They also have a clothing description for him that I'm not seeing anywhere else. Black hair, brown eyes, dreadlocks. It's noting that his hairline is beginning to recede. For clothing, tan Carhartt coat with hood, black pants and a black shirt, red shoes, and a red bandana. There is a vehicle that also goes missing, but we're going to find that that vehicle is discovered and just kind of adds to the mystery about what's going on with this case. Let's go and take a quick look at his Facebook page. Here is Marley Whoop, and there's a few things that stand out to me on his Facebook page. The first is this, a post from January 19th for a performance at a birthday party at Lounge 31. This is the flyer for the gig. $20 cover charge. It's for Jason's and Big Ice's birthday party. And they were talking about the doors opening at 9 p.m., models, bottles, and music at Lounge 31. And it looked like he was promoting this pretty hard on his Facebook page. I saw several posts where he was kind of getting this image out there. But I saw another image that kind of grabbed my attention, and I really hope is not some form of foreshadowing when it comes to this case. I don't know if he just liked this image. It's actually posted in photos in his photo section, but it's a Wikipedia entry for a list of murdered hip hop musicians. 2 studies in the mid-2010s concluded that murder was the cause of 51.5% of hip hop musician deaths. Unbelievable. The average age of death is between 25 to 30 years of age. Hip hop has a higher rate of homicide than any other genre of music, ranging from 5 to 32 times higher. Some reasons cited for the high homicide rate include poor background of many artists, criminal gang activity, drug use, and inadequate pastoral care among artists and record labels. Those numbers are staggering. And if that isn't bad enough, it's noting that XXL wrote in 2020 that of 77 rapper deaths that they examined, more than 40 of those remained unsolved. So we have rappers having a higher mortality rate due to homicide, and the solve rate pretty weak on these cases as well. And of course, to find that in his Facebook page, I really hope this isn't foreshadowing for the outcome on this case. This is Lounge 31 in Detroit, Michigan, just a shot from the street on the outside. Let me go ahead and take you to the aerial view. A lot of businesses around here. I think law enforcement has a lot of opportunity for cameras. Hopefully they might be able to pick up something if he did make it this far. I don't know that this location really plays into any of this too strongly, because we can't really confirm that Armani, Montoya, or Dante actually even get to this location. If they did, then we've got some shot of cameras on this street and in this area that might have picked up their car. And from what I understand, it's Armani's mother's car that he's driving, which is I'm thankful for, as we're going to see with some of the developments. That's part of the reason why it actually gets discovered as quickly as it does. Continuing at WLNS.com. There have been dozens of posts all over Facebook and TikTok about Kelly being missing. He left the home that he and his mother share in Oscoda on January 21st. His mother, Lori Kemp, told 6 News that his phone started going right to voicemail that night, and she knew something was wrong. She hasn't heard from him since his voicemail on January 21st. So that earlier article made it sound like he would have called her, but it almost made it sound like they actually spoke to each other. They didn't. It appears that he left a voicemail just saying, "Hey, I've made it. I'm in Detroit." Kemp made the report the next day and became very proactive in the investigation, police said, in very big ways. I've been listening more and more to all that music. It breaks my heart because there's subliminal messages in it that my mama worked hard and that we lived off Turner and Fairfield. I mean, he grew up here. This is our hometown, Kemp said of Lansing, Michigan. Kemp and Kelly's fiance, Taylor Perrin, of course, we featured both of them at the start of this video, came to Lansing to pass out flyers. It's the place that Kelly called home before he served 8 years in prison. Something is just keeping my hope alive, said his fiancée, Perrin. I'm not going to believe it until I see it. I won't. I'm supposed to marry this man, and I won't let him go until he's gone. At WSGW.com, we hear from his mother. She has the same question as we and law enforcement do. Lori Kemp says she isn't sure if her son ever made it to the performance, as she hasn't heard from him since he arrived in Detroit. She was able to track places he had visited using her vehicle's OnStar computer, which showed that it was at Life Church, Huntington Apartments, and Londonderry Condos. His vehicle is now in possession of the Warren Police Department. Let's just take a look at a map here to make sense of all these different locations we're talking about. So he drove quite a bit from Oscoda up here down to Detroit. And around the Detroit area, we've got these locations that she's mentioned. Well, first of all, here's Gratchett, so here's where the club is that he's supposed to perform at, but we're not sure that he makes it there. And I would think in this article in particular that they would have noted, that she probably would have told them, I think he did go to the club because my OnStar showed that the vehicle was there. We never hear that from her. What we do hear is about this location at Life Church, so this is certainly in the area. We hear about the apartments, the Huntington Club apartments, also in the area. And then this address here, this is the best that I could find for the location for the Londonderry condos, which doesn't show up in searches and doesn't show up in Google Maps if you just enter that, but still in this same neighborhood. So the vehicle's moving around these locations. Another thing we have to keep in mind, we don't know if he has the vehicle when it's doing this movement. We don't know about Montoya and Dante, are they in the vehicle at this point as well. In terms of the limited details I've seen with them, we're kind of hearing the same thing, that just their cell phones all cut off over the course of this day. They just stopped responding and they haven't been used again since. Continuing at WXYZ.com, multiple police agencies search for 3 men who went missing. So you probably noticed in the early articles we were covering, they were really focused on Armani's case. The press of that gets out. And then all of a sudden, the family of Montoya Gibbons and Dante Wicker, they're seeing on TV, oh, Armani Kelly's gone missing. Wait, isn't that a friend of our missing loved one as well? So then they contact law enforcement. They're like, hey, we know that our family members connected to this person. We don't know where they are right now either. So this quickly turns from just the case of Armani, who's driving down to this area, far from where he lives, going missing, to now 3 men that are missing. And I believe that somehow that turns into 3 rappers. I just think media takes this and clubs all that information together. I don't know that Montoya is a rapper. I don't know that Dante is a rapper. I don't know that they were supposed to be performing that same night as him, at least based on the social media information I'm seeing. I'm not seeing anyone. I don't know if they had different names that they would use for performing that maybe I'm not familiar with. But the New York Times has actually put out, just as of yesterday, that they're also not sure that we're talking about, the 3 rappers that were all supposed to perform together go missing, which the headlines are kind of really, really pushing strongly, especially early on with this case. But let's go ahead and dive into more details here. The missing men are reported as Montoya Gibbons, 31 years old, Armani Kelly, 28 years old, and Dante Wicker, 31 years old. Another thing, I can't find just like the basic stats for Montoya and Dante in particular, just height, weight, that type of information, last known clothing. It's very extraordinary circumstances, said Michael McGinnis, commander of major crimes with the Detroit Police Department. Police say they're working to figure out if they actually made it to the club that day. Commander McGinnis said that all 3 of their phone records stopped having activity the evening of the 21st or early morning hours of the 22nd. So it doesn't sound like they all shut off necessarily at the same time. Sounds like there's a little bit of a range there. I'm also hopeful that if the phones are on, there should be GPS information. Trying to access that might be its own challenge. I think that's tough in some of these areas, and depending on who the providers are, the carriers. I looked into it recently, and carriers have all kinds of different hoops that law enforcement has to jump through. But hopefully that information is available. Hopefully it's being saved somewhere. Thankfully, the carriers have worked that out, where most of them are at least retaining that type of information for around a year. Some of them more, some 2, and then I think one of them 7 years. So hopefully location information can be grabbed from those phones, but they do shut off at some point, evening of the 21st, early morning hours of the 22nd. We also have the location information from the vehicle. At some point, obviously, just cutting ahead a little bit, the vehicle is found. They're not with the vehicle, obviously, so they separate from it. So I don't know if the vehicle location information, how much of that can we trust? There's certainly a time in the day. We know he leaves home at about 11 a.m. He's calling his mom around 5 p.m., saying that he's in Detroit. Show was supposed to start at 9 p.m. That's like the best I can kind of put together in terms of a time frame. I believe he goes and picks up Montoya and Dante. I don't know where in the range any of that happens. I mean, if he's just calling his mom at 5, I would have to assume that at some point after 5 p.m. is when he picks the two of them up. But that's an assumption. He might have picked them up first, and then they get to Detroit and he calls his mom. I believe that they live close to this area, though. Some more information from Commander McGinnis, this coming from Fox News. In this case, the 3 individuals, what we know is that they're all associates and that they were supposed to go to a club to perform at this club. And it's our understanding that the performance got canceled. And from there, we just have a whole lot of unanswered questions that we're trying to find the answers for, he said. So it might be that comment where people kind of ran off with they were all supposed to perform together at the club. We want to find them and get them home to their loved ones, said Commander McGinnis. So the vehicle does get recovered fairly quickly. Armani, Montoya, and Dante are rappers who were slated to perform at Lounge 31. However, the event was canceled. We're also going to thankfully find some information on why the event was canceled. I know a lot of people online are kind of speculating about, was this whole event put together as a means of getting them out there? Like, is it a trap almost of some kind that this thing was never going to happen anyway? And there might be some thought to that, I guess, but we are going to get kind of an official explanation. McGinnis said a family member of one of the men believes they made it to the club before they disappeared, but police are still trying to confirm that. Police said Kelly's mother was able to use OnStar to track the vehicle that he was driving to Warren, where it was recovered on January 23rd. So basically within 2 days of them missing. Detroit police said Givens and Wicker are from Detroit and Melvindale. So those police departments are investigating along with DPD and Oscoda. So we've got a lot of different law enforcement divisions that are now part of this. It must be in Michigan that the missing persons report goes back to the home location for where the person's missing from. It varies sometimes for some reason from state to state. We have 4 police departments effectively working on this. For Armani Kelly, 2023 was shaping up to be a major year. This coming from DetroitNews.com. Months after his early release from prison on an armed robbery charge, the 27-year-old Oscoda resident was working, taking college classes, laboriously pursuing rap music, and planning a wedding. He also was starting to put together a little YouTube channel, started doing some vlogging on it, talking about his time behind bars. He really turned his life around, said his fiancée, Taylor Perrin, who has known him since they were teens growing up in Lansing. Now, that life has been upended. Kelly has long loved to rap, even carrying a notebook filled with rhymes as a teen, and he connected with a producer after his release. He performed his first show last year, and he planned a second show in Detroit, a much larger and more well-connected market, Perrin said. He just really wanted his music out and was just trying to promote it. The Saturday night of the Lounge show, Kelly told his fiancée that the gig was canceled over an equipment issue, so he planned to link up with others and possibly find open mic events. But texts, calls, and Facebook messages went unanswered sometime after 7:30 p.m., she said. For anyone that's not familiar, open mic is just what it sounds like. You show up at a place. They're usually places where there's some type of other business, like maybe it'll be a bar, maybe it'll be a coffee shop or something like that. Sometimes they'll have a requirement, like you got to buy a certain number of drinks, or you have to bring a certain number of audience with you And then you're able to put yourself on a list. Sometimes it's a random drawing, sometimes it's first come, first serve. And then for that night, they just plow through that list and share the stage. People come up, perform a song or two, and then move along. So for him to have had that expectation of performing that night, to do the drive, head out there, it's actually not a bad kind of secondary plan. I mean, if nothing else, you're still going to be exercising your art. You're going to kind of work that muscle a little bit. And, you know, Detroit is the big metropolitan area close to where he lives. Like if you're going to be seen by someone, that's the type of place it would happen, or just to network, maybe connect with other artists. That's one of the cool things about open mics. You get to watch other people and you kind of get to grow your network that way as well. So it kind of seems like it would have been a decent second plan. Probably still a bit of a letdown if you were planning on having a big show and that gets canceled over an equipment issue. But calls, texts, and Facebook messages went unanswered sometime after 7:30 p.m., she said, specifically for Armani's phone. They had a 2017 Chevrolet Equinox, like we mentioned, that was his mother's. It was eventually found muddy without a license plate at an apartment complex near Queens Court. So that is the last complex that we were talking about, the Londonderry condos. Well, probably. It is saying that there was actually two locations that kind of hit that, but based on the order that she gave us, that his mother gave us in that last article, I would say, and just kind of looking at the path of travel here, I would bet that the vehicle was found at the Londonderry location, possibly the Huntington Club Apartments, but same difference. This area close to just kind of south and east of Warren. I did see a commenter on Reddit that was actually talking about the fact that it was found muddy. This is someone that says they live in the area and that it's been pretty snowy and cold, and it would be strange to find a vehicle muddy, which it's January. I know certainly for where I am, it's been extremely cold. So it's kind of an interesting point. How did the vehicle get muddy? And without a license plate, I'm wondering if someone was trying to steal the 2017 Equinox and kind of trying to let it cool down in that area. Warren police recovered the car on January 23rd, and they've been examining it for evidence. No real news in terms of more details. I did see some comments at Web Sleuths that were talking about a video piece that I watched on it as well, where they showed just a little piece of the evidence log for the search on the vehicle. They were talking about some things that were found in it, but I didn't see anything particularly interesting, like, a gas can, a cap, some other stuff like that was found in there. Armani's mother has been posting frequently online about the case, and most of her days are devoted to canvassing and posting flyers wherever possible. I'm a very resourceful woman, and I will do whatever it takes to get my son where he needs to be, she said. Like Kemp, his fiancée, Perrin has pushed back against criticism about the men having criminal histories. Quote, "They did their time. Everybody makes mistakes in life, and they were charged with crimes. Armani did his time and came out a whole new person. He knew what he did was wrong and that he's not on the path that he wanted to travel on. At the end of the day, they're still a human being and they deserve to be seen and heard." Certainly. And I talk about this frequently, but sometimes people look for kind of emotional off-ramps when they're hearing about instances like this. Oh, these are a bunch of thugs. They got what they deserved. These missing persons cases are about so much more than the person that's missing. Yes, they are just as important. They're the absolute focus of a missing persons case. But listen to all the pain that this family is going through. There's 3 families going through this. 3 families dealing with having a missing loved one around this one case. So it's a lot. It's a lot of people that are affected by something like this. And I would hope that every one of you out there had been given a second chance where you could look back at a statement like Perrin is making here and say, you know what, I get it. Yeah, I wasn't always perfect myself. Now, where in the last article we heard his mother kind of sounding strong and that she's going to do whatever it takes, it seems like she's going through the emotional roller coaster. Other articles have her wavering again. Here at Click on Detroit, Michigan mother frantic. I'll never see that beautiful smile. He'll never tussle with me no more. He's never going to lay in bed with me no more. And I know somebody knows something. Kemp and Taylor Perrin can't help but think the worst after the disappearance. It's just been a nightmare that I want to wake up from. And I want my fiancé home, said Perrin. Authorities from 4 cities have been working on the investigation. Sadly, Kemp and Perrin say so far that they've been failed by all of those law enforcement organizations. Nobody wanted to believe us. When the cops had the car, they wanted us to pick it up. They were like, oh, he's probably just with another woman inside one of those apartments, Perrin recalled. That's really, really strange. I can't imagine calling a police department and saying, hey, I've traced where my car is using a feature on it, and I can see it, and it's missing its license plate. Can we get some help around that? That's really, really strange. But the police department, the Detroit Police Department, is now taking the lead. They're saying that they're doing everything in their power to get the 3 men found and bring them home alive. We've got license plate readers, we've got green light cameras, and I'm confident that using those tools will help us get the answers that these families deserve, said Detroit Police Commander Michael McGinnis. Again, at least with those comments, he's focusing much more on tracking the vehicle. It's certainly that's a lead he should be looking at. I would just hope that in the background on this, they've got all that cell phone subpoenas and whatever they need to do going to try to help with this. So, this case is fairly new, but literally over the past 2 days, some new information has come out, some information that might lead to possibly a Facebook video that might point us in a direction in terms of what's happening around this. And that YouTube video, or the YouTube channel that I mentioned earlier that Armani started, that might play into this all somehow as well. Let's learn about it more at cbsnews.com. A Facebook Live video conversation has surfaced where Kelly is seen talking with 3 men about coming to Detroit only 2 days before he went missing. I think it has to do with that video, said his mother, Lori Kemp. In that video, Kelly mentioned that he was going to pick up Jug before heading to Detroit to meet up with the masked men in the video. Jug is the nickname of Montoya Givens. Police have not confirmed whether or not the video is in any way connected to the 3 men disappearing. However, they said they're aware of it and are monitoring several social media accounts. So I haven't found the original link for this video. If you guys have it, please put it in the description box down below. The pieces that I'm seeing from this news piece, it's kind of strange to me because the newscasters are assuming that he's in a disagreement with these people that he's speaking to. And I hear a little bit where, I feel like they're kind of ribbing each other a bit, but I don't know that it's a very serious disagreement. I don't know. I just can't tell. There's a little clip here. Let's play this together. Maybe this will give you guys a little bit of insight.
But you gonna put that on your next scene? I mean, on your next
Let's go.
If you're on your podcast.
But Kelly still suggests he wanted to meet up with them.
I believe it was a commenter at Web Sleuths, if I recall correctly, that was talking about possibly that this conversation is connected to some of the Facebook videos, those vlogs that I told you he was doing about his time behind bars. That effectively he has released some type of information in those vlogs that has upset someone, and this is some form of connectivity with the Facebook video where people are saying, yeah, sure, come on out and meet us, bring your boys, and let's see what happens. Other analysis I'm seeing is people that seem to have watched the whole video, unfortunately, like I told you guys, I can't find it, saying that they're not sure that Armani is really in an argument with these guys. That to them, it appears like he doesn't know that the guys are serious and he's kind of just taking it lightly. And I've looked through his social media a little bit, and he does have a thing about like when people kind of lash out at him, he just kind of has fun, almost like back in their face a little bit. It kind of seems like a reaction that I've seen in a few of his posts on Facebook. So maybe that's just his personality. Maybe that's how, he responds to someone kind of coming at him like that. Is this video really tying into it? I don't know. One other little interesting piece, one of those vlogs used to have comments on it. Now those comments have been disabled. So I don't know if those comments might have had something important. Law enforcement was like, let's make sure that we get those disabled. Or does someone have a device of his or access using his login and they went and disabled that information for some reason? Like, you've got to get into YouTube Studio to be able to disable comments on a video. That's not something that you can just generally do. You need your login to be able to do that. Or I would think law enforcement might be able to do it if they contacted YouTube directly. So kind of interesting that the comments were there previously. They've now been shut down after this development about this video surfaces. So a couple of other things I found that have just come out recently, I just want to add so that we get as complete a picture as possible. Finally, we do have some information coming directly from Lounge 31. The owner, Darnell Williams, told the Free Press that the performances were canceled that night because of technical failures with the DJ equipment. He said that there were too many people in the crowd to know whether or not the missing men were there, but that police were reviewing video footage. So sounds like they're cooperating with police. They handed over their footage or letting the cops go through it to try to see if they can identify Armani, Montoya, or Dante in that footage. And it's interesting to know the place was still open, but basically they just couldn't have their music that night because the DJ setup wasn't working properly. The vehicle that Kelly drove to Detroit, his mom's gray 2017 Chevy Equinox, sounds like there's more to this story about how it was traced. And I think it kind of better explains the frustrations that his mom and his fiance have been talking about with law enforcement. So it was first traced to Life Church on January 23rd using OnStar. And that's according to a Warren Police stolen vehicle report. It's unknown why the vehicle was there and whether or not the three men were also in Warren. His mom, upset that the vehicle was not immediately impounded by police for evidence, said that she went to check on the vehicle later that day. So later on January 23rd, she goes to check on the vehicle again. So it's so strange to me because this is her property. And she's trying to tell them, like, I need help. My son's missing. My vehicle is now here. Like, will you guys come pick this up? And they're just like, no. And honestly, I don't know if at this point the license plate has been removed. If that's true, if she found her vehicle and she's like, oh, and my license plate has been removed, I'd be really, really surprised if they wouldn't come out there. But I don't know. I just don't know. So later on the 23rd, she goes to check on the vehicle again and it's gone. So what does she do? She fires up her OnStar. She tracks it down again. So it has moved effectively on the 23rd. And that's when it shows up at the Huntington Club Apartments in Warren. The police report acknowledges that officials in Oscoda, about 200 miles north, asked Warren police to check out the apartment complex. By 9 a.m. on January 24th, it appears the vehicle was not at the church or at Huntington Club Apartments. According to the police report, OnStar informed Warren police that the vehicle was on the move again, and it was now parked in Warren, and that's where it was finally recovered. That's where I believe is the Londonderry condos location. But not only did they recover the vehicle, a juvenile suspected of stealing the vehicle has been apprehended, but not yet charged. So we've got someone that police think is at least connected to the vehicle. And again, just hearing about these types of movements and the fact that it's moving around in a neighborhood like that, all three of those locations certainly within walking distance. Let's see here. I don't even think, well, the Life Church one is a little far out. That would be 2.5 miles from the Huntington Club Apartments and then the final location where it's found. But it just seems to me like someone might have thought that they were stealing a vehicle and trying to get it to cool off before they were going to do whatever they were going to do with it. Earlier today, some new information about this person that was arrested came out. According to the county prosecutor's office, a juvenile was arrested and arraigned for possessing Armani Kelly's vehicle. The suspect has been arraigned. However, his name is not being released because he's a minor. A preliminary exam is scheduled for next week. The suspect is charged with possessing a stolen vehicle and burglary tools, according to prosecutors. At this time, it is not believed that the juvenile is connected to the disappearance of Kelly, Givens, and Wicker. That is really strange. How does the vehicle wind up in this kid's possession? Does someone leave it sitting somewhere with the keys in it and the door open, just to possibly throw off law enforcement, get that vehicle to move, get someone else to take it away? I think it's a possibility. And we have this mother wondering where her son is, working every day she can out there trying to find him. She says, "I don't want to be on Dateline in 20 years to find his body." Kemp has been physically searching for her son since he went missing. "I'm doing everything I possibly can, and I'm out here hitting the roads, hitting the pavement. Where is the police department? They didn't do their job." Kemp thinks that her son may have been set up by somebody that he met behind bars. "I'm angry because you did 8 years in prison and you didn't die, and then you get out and they kill you. He's dead." So here we can see she is swinging once again very hard to thinking that he's not with us anymore. "I love that people have hope, but I know in my gut, I'm the mother," she said. And in the New York Times, we're hearing from law enforcement directly. They know they need help with this case. Missing persons and homicide units are both investigating the case, Chief White said. The authorities urged anyone with information about the missing men or their whereabouts to contact the police departments. Of course, we've got Detroit Police Department's number on the screen here, but in the description box down below, you'll find all the different contact info for the different police departments. And if you need to remain anonymous for some reason, we've got a number down there you can use for that as well. Think about the victims' families in this case. They have no answers. They don't know where their loved one is, said Commander McGinnis. The police need help. Just to finally close out the last bit of understanding on this that's currently available, Mr. Kelly met Mr. Wicker and Mr. Givens while they were all in prison, Armani's fiance said. While the police said that all three were to be at Lounge 31 on January 21st for a rap event, it's unclear if Mr. Wicker and Mr. Givens were also supposed to perform. With how many days it's been, it's hard to believe he's still out there alive, his mom said, but I can't sit here and tell everybody, oh, I think he's dead, because I don't know. And the world is a crazy place. Until I see a body, I'm not going to believe it. So his fiance certainly holding on to hope with everything that she's got. Very thankful to see that there is a NamUs profile already for Armani. Unfortunately, there is not one for Montoya and not one for Dante, and I just can't find near the information that I need to be able to create one for them. I'm hoping that those police departments might have already submitted them. Maybe they just haven't been cleared through NamUs. And quite honestly, for a case that's only 2 weeks old, I was kind of surprised to know that Armani's was even up and active. In the description box down below, all the links that we looked at today, plus I will include Web Sleuth's very good conversations that always go on there. They stick to the facts. They keep it moderated. I really appreciate their approach. It's a good place to continue this conversation if you would like to. This is a case that just, it sounds troubling. I mean, yeah, we've got criminal histories here. You wonder what that brings with it. What type of social connectivity? Could this really be something as simple as being involved in rap, in creating this type of art? I would really hope not. I mean, I really thought about this today, and how many of us consume some form of art where there is violence that is fictionalized, or even in terms of talking about true crime. We're talking about the realities of violence here. On a week-to-week basis, we've been doing that here on the channel. To think that someone can't perform their art without their life being taken from them, or it raising the homicide rate for that type of artist specifically, it's a lot to take in. I really hope that's not what we're talking about with this case. And I hope that the families of Armani Kelly, Montoya Givens, and Dante Wicker find their sons. And if they can't bring them back alive, they deserve answers and very probably justice. It's now after 10 p.m. on the day that I'm filming this episode. I was in the middle of editing it when I got an update from Christy Arnhart on this case. And unfortunately, what started earlier today as a Searchlight has now moved into a brain scratch. We're now talking about a murder situation that quite possibly could be on its way to being solved pretty quickly, I hope, especially for all of these families going through this. But let's go ahead and get the latest update here at the Detroit News. The bodies of 3 missing men, rappers Armani Kelly and Dante Wicker and friend Montoya Gibbons, were found Thursday inside the North Course Apartments building on the Highland Park border near Detroit's Palmer Park. What's interesting about this location is we know that the vehicle was found up here around Queens Court, and the bodies have been found down here. It's actually kind of closer to the club that they were supposed to be performing at. At least it's on the same side of Highway 102. It's on the south side of that here. Apparently this is an apartment building that is no longer in use, kind of got some squatters living in there. Let's just go ahead and take a look at the street view real quick. But how would they have figured this out? We've got a lot more details to get to. Let's continue here. Investigators were led to the area after obtaining the 3 men's cellular data. Their 3 phones pinged to the area near the large abandoned apartment complex. Members of several units from multiple police agencies searched the building, finally discovering the bodies in the basement beneath old construction equipment. The victims had been shot, a source said. Because exigent circumstances, which exigent basically means immediate or urgent, involving an immediate known danger didn't exist, it took several days for police to get access to the data. So they did do what I thought they would do. They requested it from the cell phone companies, but they didn't have solid information to say, hey, these guys are in some type of imminent threat situation. So it took a little longer to get those records, unfortunately. It also does clear up that Wicker is also a rapper from Melvindale. He was scheduled to perform at the Lounge 31 party under his stage name, which is B12. Warren police last week arrested a 15-year-old boy, so we get an update on this as well. The boy that he was actually driving Kelly's 2017 Chevrolet Equinox without a license plate. A Detroit police source involved in the multi-agency investigation said the teenager told police that a man had told him to pick up the car on Schoolcraft on Detroit's west side. So again, something I was kind of assuming that maybe that car was left somewhere on purpose, and this 15-year-old was played in a way, hey, you can go get this car, take it, it's yours. It looks like that was true, but all of a sudden this leaves a thread that investigators can follow. Police looked into the boy's cell phone, and calls and texts led them to the man, who lives on Ashton on Detroit's northwest side. The man had an outstanding warrant involving alleged fraud, a source said. Police got a warrant to search the man's house Monday, and he was taken into custody for questioning, according to the source. So this is some stuff, apparently, that happened earlier this week that they just hadn't reported on. So they've already got this other guy that they've been questioning on this case. I'm not seeing anything about charges that have been filed for him yet, though. Another break in the case came after investigators pored over high-definition video from Project Greenlight. So they did mention they were going to look at those light cameras, and they did. And apparently they found a video of the man, the same man that they brought in for questioning, wearing gloves, cleaning out Kelly's car. It's kind of weird to me that he would think to wear gloves so that he wouldn't leave evidence there, but then leave something as simple as a phone call to trace it right back to him. But unfortunately, these men are not coming home alive. It's just, it's really chilling to think about the Wikipedia post that was on Armani's Facebook. The fact that this is a story that's repeating itself over and over, and here we have another instance of it, and we have 3 lives taken, and that second chance that I was talking about earlier is not going to happen. It's really, really unfortunate. Please keep these families in your thoughts and prayers as they move through this, and if there are any other significant developments, I'll keep you updated here on the channel. Thank you so much, and please join us again on Monday for a new episode of Case Cracked here on the LordanArts channel.